Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and this is a reading for an astrological reading for the Aquarius New Moon 2020, happening on January 24th, 2020, if you are on the eastern seaboard of the United States at 4:42 p.m. Eastern Time. Um, let's see here. This new moon it's really interesting because the energetic signature of it has to do with taking accountability for the way things are in our lives, taking real accountability and understanding, you know, okay, I know why I'm here. I know how I got here, and I know what I need to do if I want a different result. Um, and taking responsibility for the impact that our choices have had on other people. And in some cases, even just dawning an awareness of that impact, not necessarily doing anything about it yet, but just coming to clarity that our choices have impact. This new moon happens at the 4th degree of Aquarius. Let's see if I can pull this up and show you out here in the chart. Oof, I could definitely try that again. 4th degree of Aquarius. Um, and the ruler of this new moon being Uranus, ancient ruler being Saturn. And we'll get to this Saturn Pluto situation in a minute because the energy of this is going to color all of 2020. But this new moon happens to be squaring the modern ruler of Aquarius, Uranus. Um, and sextiling Chiron at 2 degrees of Aries here. And so when you look at this, all three of them together, because anytime you've got a significant conversation to a new moon or to a particular planet, you can't count the planet or that moon as only having that one energetic signature. Instead, the planet or that new moon or what have you takes on the energy of all the things that it's talking to as a singular energy. And this particular new moon, with this square to Uranus and sextile to Chiron, this is a sudden exposure of a wound that needs to be healed. This is the recognition of the root of the problem. This is a recognition of, oh, right. This is why I behave that way. This is why I do that. This is what is at the core. So, and it comes on like a sudden stroke of insight for some of you who have a lot of clairsentience in your physical body. You may find that this energy builds all week until the epiphany arises, but it builds through your physical body. It builds through your muscle tension, through joint pain. It builds through heart palpitations with this Uranus activation here of all of the earth energy across the chart. So, if you're feeling that way, if you've got some of that going on, I just recommend that you take it easy with your body, that you give your body plenty of healing foods, healing drinks, healing activities, salt baths, yoga, stretching, massage, chiropractic, whatever you need to ease some of the physiological tension of this awareness that's coming in, that's at the root of some of the challenges that you've been having. For those of you that are not quite as body based in that way, because this is a new moon in Aquarius, and Mercury is sort of part of the conversation. Mercury being mind out here at the 13th degree. It's not a big part, but it's there. The hidden things that get revealed you may find that they come in through mood swings or mind swings. where there, you go back and forth between like complete and total numbness, feeling nothing, slightly checked out, to being aggravated and irritated or like hyper focused or unable to focus. And then you go back into numbness, and then you go into a period of mental hyperactivity. Um, Uranian energy can be excessively hard to ground. Um, it can be really difficult to land things and create foundations with, because it's so electric, it's so alive, it moves so quickly. And so, again, this is where you want to take the time to do what you need to do to ground your mind. For those of you who have mental practices that allow you to step into witnessing the mind, moving into mindfulness, this week it'll be really helpful to do that, so that you get the best of the energies instead of the energies getting the best of you. That said, let's kind of dig into a few more of the signatures here so that you can understand how all of this comes together. During this new moon, we have Mercury sextiling Mars. Let's just clear these so you can see what that looks like. Here's Mercury here, and then here's Mars here. Between the air in Mercury, and Aquarius is electric air, um, and the philosophy, the fire, the passion of Sagittarius. It's funny because Sagittarius is really almost kind of, an airy fire, and we have an electric fire, like fiery electricity with Aquarius. This complementary energy is what causes things to really heat up and causes the part of this mental swing that feels almost a little bit manic this week. It's almost like suddenly, ooh, I have to get in action. I have to do something, as we approach this new moon. And in the days following it as well, there's a little bit of a yikes, I need to do something kind of going on. And it's a very spiritual energy, because what happens with Mars and Mercury having a conversation is that there's insight and then there's action. And the second the insight comes on board, action follows. The velocity to action is just extremely high with this new moon, as surprising truths from the spiritual realm start to come forward. You'll feel a little bit like, spirit is speaking to you, in different ways. Either, for those of you that get, external signs and messages, you may see an abundance of those. But for those of you who get internal signs and messages as well, you may find an abundance of those as well. Especially if you know your chart, what your 12th house is. That 12th house, and then where the fire signs sit in your chart and where the air signs sit in your chart is where you're going to find that activation for communication. If you're curious about how that works out for you, which house this all plays out in, and where you can look to for your signs and your messages, definitely shoot me an email at chrysalismoon@gmail.com. We're going to go ahead and start booking February shortly here. Um, and if you would like a reading during the month of February, now is a great time to go ahead and schedule it. January, unfortunately, is fully booked at this point. But shoot me that email, and I'll go ahead and give you an autoresponder that tells you everything you need to book. Because this energy is also having a conversation out here with Vesta. It's that Mercury having a conversation with Vesta here in Taurus. For astrologers who work with asteroids, which Vesta is one, or the trans-Neptunian objects, I work with both. This Vesta energy comes in and it brings a double down and a dedication to our growth. It's almost as if there's a little bit of an energy of, whoops, I see an old pattern coming up. I refuse to let this year, this decade, be anything like the old one, the last one. There's a little bit of a, I will not go backwards this year, come hell or high water. I refuse to go backwards. And that's really, it can be really good. Um, it can be a little bit tense, you know, with that Vesta square Mercury. It can also bring quite a bit of stubbornness, as both of these are fixed signs. um, and not just stubbornness in terms of what we will and won't do, but it can bring a fixity of mind that really stops. It can actually work against us. It can uh, cause us to not see where our growth is because we're so doggedly holding on to what our idea of growth is that we refuse to let the universe show us here's where we're meant to be going and growing. So just be mindful of that, especially if the energy starts to feel a little bit manic to you. That mania will come as a result of actually being in resistance, of not wanting to, not allowing, not uh, uh, letting the universe have, have input into the conversation. This is definitely a week where to get the best out of it, you want to deploy your version of a mindfulness practice so that you can hear the messages come through and you get the best of the energies instead of the energies getting the best of you. Okay, so then the other energy here that's, really standing out and seems really important to talk about, and actually there's a couple more, is here's this Venus in Pisces square Mars. Now, in mutable signs, first of all, in any sign, a Venus Mars conversation brings a lot of passion, a lot of passion. And if we've got this mental certainty with the Mercury square Vesta here that makes us think, yeah, we're really right about stuff, this gives us a lot of, oh no, I am passionately right about this. You are wrong, I am right. And there can be a lot of digging in of the heels energy. And you may see this across across political lines. You may see this a bit in the workplace as this energy starts to come forward and build as we get to the new moon. And even the week following the new moon, there's still a bit of like doggedly holding on to our idea of right and refusing to believe that somebody else is right. It's very much a right versus wrong energy as opposed to a both and or a collaborative energy. The challenge with this, um, the challenge with this is that, again, recall what I said about when there's another planet in the mix, even when you've got like a close and exact conversation, like we have 14-degree Mars and we've got 13-degree Venus, Venus isn't standing alone right now. Venus is having a conversation with Neptune as she's squaring Mars. And this is where the problem arises. Because Neptune, while Venus is glue and it's attracting to things and it's sucking us into certain places and it's allowing us to feel very much, especially in Pisces, in love with, you know, our spiritual truths, our spiritual direction, our spiritual connections. Neptune, at the same time, by the same token, is creating a lot of illusion, dissolving, confusion, lack of clarity, um, inflating of some of the ideas. It's almost like we run away with, for whatever reason, during this new moon, uh, some certain ideals that suddenly we'll wake up from in a few weeks' time and go, oh, yeah, that was misguided of me. And this too is what in part lends itself to some of the manic energy of this new moon, the kind of up and down mood swingy, mind swinging energy. And the Mars square to this, it just, 1 minute we're in action, 1 minute we're drawing back, 1 minute we're moving forward, 1 minute we're taking a break, 1 minute we want to go, 1 minute we want to stop. The Mars square to this, especially with Neptune, the outer planet to Venus and Mars, impacting both of them. Yeah, Neptune's just, it's making the whole thing feel a little cray cray. So just be aware of that, as the truths start to surface under the light of this new moon, especially for those of you who have heeded this message to slow down, take time to get conscious, channel the energy in, pay attention to the signs, diffuse excessively built up and pent up energy within you. Those of you who have heeded that message, you will find that you're not as taken and caught up and swept up in the madness that is going to be this particular new moon's energies, because there will be some exposure of either wounds or information that previously had not come to light, and it will be sudden. And that sudden exposure of information will send a lot of people who aren't conscious of what's going on into a bit of a tailspin. And what matters is being able to see it for what it is, that there underneath all of this there is a wound, and the wound that the circumstances are speaking to is what needs to be addressed, not the mania on top of the wound and all the reactionaryism surrounding the way people have been responding to the wound. It's no. There's something deeper underneath this that we need to legitimately address. And if we can address that, we can get the best of this new moon energy. So what else? Yeah, especially because this is a square going on in mutable signs. There also, unfortunately, there can be a high level of manipulation going on with this energy. Emotional manipulation in particular, because the heavier anchoring is in the water sign of Pisces. So there can be a little bit of everyone trying to strong arm everyone else into getting their way, using tactics of emotional blackmail, emotional manipulation. But again, if you can just recognize that underneath even that behavior, there is a wound. And if we can address the wound and start to speak to that, that's how you actually come to have the upper hand over the circumstances. Now, there's more to this Venus-Neptunian story here, because, Venus and Neptune are conjunct here, as we discussed, right? But Jupiter here is in a sextile to Venus. And so sextiles being this complementary energy, they work well together. They want to give each other, their best. But Jupiter, I'm loath to say Jupiter is almost in a compromised position, having just crossed over the South Node and bringing a lot of karma and baggage with it. In terms of, Jupiter just kind of being, expansion, hope, and optimism. And the shadow, Jupiter can really be like excess and grandiosity. And during a Jupiter-Neptune sextile, unfortunately, there's a little bit of that. In fact, there's a lot of bit of that. You get kind of a bit more of the less lovely parts of Jupiter, as Jupiter's just coming out of talking to the South Node and bringing certain karmas and baggage with it. So, how to put it? On the one hand, there's a little bit of like old addiction energy flaring up, old escapist tendencies flaring up. This is kind of like a desire to, like, party and drink and do drugs, and then the sex and the rock and roll. It can be a lot of that here. A lot of willingness and wantingness to escape the physical reality that Jupiter just found itself landed in, with some of the like karma energy that popped out of the south node as it crossed over the south node. There's a little bit of like, nope, not going to deal with that. Just going to come over here and I'm just going to come over here and I'm just going to party and I'm just going to deal with some other stuff. But recall that the energy of this full moon, all of the planetary conversations the full moon is having, this really is about revealing that hidden wound and needing to take accountability, needing to legitimately take accountability and take a stand for our own wounding, and recognize, okay, I can't keep partying and bullshitting, given that this is the wound. I actually need to heal the wound. It's a little bit like that, where everyone's kind of taking their karmic lumps this week. And with this new moon, everyone's kind of getting that kind of slap on the wrist, or that proverbial shift sandwich, as I like to call it, where you're asked and invited to shift so that you no longer do the things you used to do, because those things are not working. They have not been working for some time. And so the shift sandwich is like, hey, how about you look over here at, this poop that's been in the middle of the living room that everyone's been trying to ignore for so long. How about we just deal with the poop? It's that kind of new moon, despite the fact that there is a little bit of this kind of, wanting to escape it. And there will be some people who choose the escape hatch instead of like dealing with the poop in the room. Um, for those of you who are hearing this message, my desire and prayer for you is that you just deal with the poops, so that you don't become an astrological bottom feeder, getting the worst of every transit until you've dealt with it. Speaking from personal experience of having been an astrological bottom feeder at one point in time, best to just deal with it now. Trust me on this one. It is better to just deal with what you got today, instead of allowing things to get added onto it tomorrow. So for those that find themselves dealing with other humans who are in the midst of escapist tendencies, there's a set of spiritual teachers, Sri Ramka and Kira Ra, who talk about, be with those who are awake, but those who are still sleeping, let them slumber, tuck them in. If this is what they're choosing to do with the energy, let them. Don't try to force people who aren't ready to be awake. Don't try to force them to be awake in your life. Just be with people who are awake instead. So let's see other energies going on here. I really love Shri and Kira. They're so good. Old addiction flaring up, escapist tendencies. Right, we covered that. Right. The other thing that's kind of going on that lends itself to some of those escapist tendencies is this entire configuration that's building energy out here in Pisces. So, I'll just circle it so you guys can see it here. Let's see if we can try that again. So Nessus is playing a part in this conversation as well. And then there's this Lilith Chiron conversation that we're going to talk about also, because Lilith really is the bridge energy between what's going on at the tail end of this cycle, Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, and Aries being the beginning of a new cycle in the zodiac, and Lilith sitting right there at the 29th degree of Pisces. Good times. So Nessus, being part of the Venus-Neptune conjunction to some degree, you see Nessus is a little further out at the 9th degree of Pisces. Nessus brings a lot of obsession energy. Nessus brings an energy of like holding on, doggedly holding on, like gripping, like straight up. Obsession. That's the only word for it. And so with Nessus over here, talking with Neptune and with Venus, there is quite a bit of unattainable love, and in this energy, especially with Jupiter being in the sextile, and it's not just unattainable love; it's also unattainable goals. With this particular new moon, and then there's a coming to terms with that unrequited love, those unmet goals. There's a bit of needing to swallow it, to recognize that, we tried it, it didn't work. We wanted it, it didn't come to fruition. It felt right, but it wasn't, circumstances just weren't on our side at this time. There's a little bit of thwarted love and thwarted goals that are starting to come to consciousness as a result of this configuration. And that's a part of how this energy around hidden things coming to be revealed, sudden exposures of a wound that needs to be healed. Once you sit in that energy of the what's not working at this time, this is how you get to the root. This is how we get to the wound that needs to be healed, is we sit in the exposure of what is not working. And we stop here and we look at it and we examine the poop that's in the middle of the room. And we go, okay, I got it. Yeah. All right. I see why none of this is coming together the way I thought it would. And so this may really bring forward, especially because Lilith is conjunct Chiron at this time, at the tail end of the zodiac and the beginning of the zodiac. This is really going to bring forward our wounds in love. We're going to start to understand how we got them. Some of our wounds in our personality as well. We're going to understand how we got those, and how we let them fester and grow, and how we have not been exposing them to light so that they can heal. We're going to start to really, this is an uncomfortable mirror. I guess that's the best way to put it. This is a pretty uncomfortable mirror, this Aquarius new moon, but it's such a helpful mirror. This is a mirror from which breakthroughs can actually happen, and not fake breakthroughs, not fake throughs, breakthroughs. And so why I love this is because, with the fake through, we can own that, oh, I understand this concept, and now I really know what I need to do, and I'm really clear. I've grown and I've ascended, and now I'm good. I'm on the right path. That's a fake through. Sometimes people call that a spiritual bypass. But with an actual breakthrough, something had to break. And it's in the breaking of whatever that thing is, and under the light of this new moon and that particular, Cancer or Capricorn eclipse, Cancer eclipse that we just had, something broke. Something definitely broke. And so this gives us the opportunity to be with what broke, and to start the process of legitimately doing what we have to do to fix it, to heal it, to grow. So this is what's exciting about this, is that we're letting go of the fake through and stepping into the actual breakthrough. And to do that, yeah, it takes eating a little crow. This is going to be a humbling new moon for a lot of us. Um, wow. Okay. So there's that. Um, and then all of this is happening within the extended and ongoing context that we're going to have all year long of Saturn and Pluto conjunct. Um, and this conjunction isn't happening on its own. It's happening for those, again, for those of you who use, you know, the asteroids and trans-Neptunian objects. We've got a direct square here to Eris, and we've got a square here to the creation goddess. This, T square here is the proliferation of being victimized by the deterioration of our current structures. Whatever's falling apart right now, it's going to be so easy to move into feeling like a complete victim around it, which we are not. We've never been a victim. And so what we're being invited to do is to start the process of getting vulnerable and getting real, getting into the completion of what would be a grand cross here. Step into Cancerian vulnerability, emotionality, emotional realness, emotional rawness. Get into how it hurts. And from that place, take a good look at where it is we need to heal. Okay? It's Cancer that is the way out. Moving into emotional realness, vulnerability, rawness, truth, getting into the messy emotions, the ones we wish we didn't have, the ones we would prefer nobody else saw. Getting into that is how we address the root. That is how we get into the spiritual truth. That is how we expose the wound that needs to be healed. So, fun times. Fun times for all of us. I will tell you that, because there is an energy here and an opportunity to go straight into mania instead of dealing with this. Just keep in mind that if you want to skip that, because you can skip the mania, do your self-care work. Do the things that allow you to either ground mentally or ground physically so that you can take this lightning insight, these lightning energies, and not get electrified or electrocuted with them. Ground them like a lightning rod via your physical practice and your spiritual practice, because that's what's really going to allow you to get into the place of not having this eat you up or causing you to repeat a cycle that you're done with. So if you're curious about how all of this plays out in your individual chart, definitely shoot me an email. I can tell you for a fact that those of you who are either fixed or cardinal signs are going to be feeling a lot of this energy the most. Those of you who are water signs are also going to be kind of significantly impacted in certain ways because of the North Node in Cancer and this heavy configuration in Pisces. You're going to start to feel some feels for sure. But if you're curious about how to work with this in your own life, definitely shoot me an email at chrysalismoon@gmail.com. KRYSALISMOON@gmail.com. There's limited availability in February as I have some other projects that I need to focus on, but I would love to spend time with you if you know you need some help moving through this energy. Thank you so much and take great care. Bye for now.